Language is the primary tool of conscious thought, and our thought process is heavily influenced by the technology that restructures it, which means that our brain activity has changed along with the development of writing and reading techniques. Originally, texts were written down without spaces or any punctuation. This form of writing is known as scriptura continua. And to learn something written, people read aloud. It was a labor-intensive process. The concentration was like solving a puzzle. The scriptura continua was practically abandoned only by the 13th century. And then the process became easier. People were already beginning to read not only to themselves, but to understand more complex texts. They noticed the change that happened in their mind while reading reflectively. A medieval bishop, Saint Icecurius, indicated that he experienced as if he were strangely plunged into a dream. The English vocabulary has grown from several thousand words to 1 million with the growth of culture. Our limits of perception have stretched as well. We are now caught between two technological worlds like in the Middle Ages. Dusty libraries are behind us, and we are still hanging on to the steps of the electronic revolution. Viewing material on the internet is an entirely new level of knowledge. It's entirely different from reading books. On a website, you're being bombarded with ads, newsletter subscriptions, columns with good material, hyperlinks to sources. We jump from one object to another and do not pay much attention to the text, and therefore we learn it worse. Think back to yourself when you were 10 years old, when you were reading a book for a meal, and compare how dull it is for you now. The electric revolution is reaching its climax. Will we become like robots, as in Space Odyssey, when the HAL 9000 computer intelligence is more human-like than the pilots and the crew? Will our minds simplify to the level of artificial intelligence? Perhaps this is what Stanley Kubrick predicted. For now, however, the bookworms remain the beneficiaries. Much has been said about the benefits of reading. You yourself remember these old metaphors, in which a book is not just a friend, but also a mirror to life, a container of knowledge, a judge, a medicine, and a weapon. But not everyone who loves to read does so productively. Who among us has not forgotten what we have read from a book after 30 days? And who has not wandered into their own thoughts as their eyes move down the lines? To get the most out of a book, you have to follow some rules. I like Bill Gates' 3 rules the best. They are very easy and do the main job of reading comprehension of the text. There are plenty of temptations to distract you even by your own brain. In order to help you concentrate more on the text and remember what you have read, take notes. Theory is reading, and practice is note-taking in margins. You talk to the book as if it was you. For, you see, you learn far more when you're speaking with someone else instead of hearing the monologue of another person. For example, while reading, you notice that you don't share the author's opinion. Immediately note this in the margins or in your notebook. Prove your disagreement with an example from your own experience. Cross out what you don't like. Put question marks if you need to clarify the meaning of a word or information. In general, write your thoughts about what you read. The more, the better. This is how you strengthen the connection. This technique is like a practice in depth. This is a technique of memorizing information in learning theory. It is also based on forming associations between the new information you're trying to learn and the information you already know. In general, the more associations you make, the deeper the information will be processed. That is, it will stick in your head for a long time. The second rule is even simpler. Read the whole book. Yes, I was also astonished at this, as people are tortured to abandon them if they do not like them. But Gates does not tell you to finish a bad reading. Instead, he suggests planning in advance what you are going to read. It is a waste of time to read aimlessly and stop in the middle of a book. Learn as much as you can about it from multiple sources. Even more for educational texts. For fiction, it's not so simple. Reviews are not the best option here. It's all individual. But if you take for them, then look at the average ratings. There will be no squealing enthusiasm for 5 stars. If it doesn't fit, don't force the apex of literature inside you. Don't pretend you only like it half understood. Just remember school with its approach. You have to read a certain piece of writing and make a conclusion from it. The only correct one, which will be your moral guideline for life. But it's not physics. Tolstoy would have lost his mind if he had learned that all school children in Russia are forced to read War and Peace. This literature is not for the tender age. He himself, after all, spoke unflatteringly of this work, as he did of Anna Karenina. And think about how many more established writers believed their so-called best work was garbage. Good writing is a matter of taste. Writers have frequently criticized writers. Approach literature impartially, as you would an alien manuscript. Eventually, you and so will recognize a good book from a bad one. The key is to enjoy doing it. Read a book for at least an hour. Perception takes depth, and that comes with time. But don't forget that Bill Gates is still a retired billionaire. Who else but him reads daily as much as he wants? Students and working professionals, and sometimes both of them at the same time, it is more difficult to spend much time reading. So give yourself at least this bare minimum of an hour. Set your alarm to go off an hour earlier, and when it does, grab a book. You'll be going slower this way, but avoid the vanity. It's so much more worthwhile to get a feeling for the material than posting kilometer-long lists of what you're reading on Instagram. Friends, how do you do it? What's the most interesting and useful thing you've read recently? Share in the comments. I hope you had fun. Remember, we are the creators of our own reality, so create boldly. See you in the next one.